Cross fans, welcome to Laatste Ronde. I'm Marty Mack. Thanks for joining me. I've just finished commentating the Gavere World Cup, so I thought what better time than to launch my little show than to just jump on and have a chat about what we had today. And Gavere, one of my favourite courses. It's one of the most historic cyclocross courses on the circuit, and me being an absolute cross geek, it was one I absolutely loved. We haven't had conditions like we had in Gavere today for a very long time. Mathieu van der Poel said in his pre-race interview that he kind of remembers conditions kind of similar about 15 years ago. And I've been commentating cyclocross for over 20 years, and I don't remember conditions like that. I was probably doing that one 15 years ago as well. But it meant that the course was completely different to what we've had in previous years. And it did take riders a few laps and the odd bike change here and there, a couple of bike changes, to just get the tyres dialed in. In the elite women's race, great start, previous winner Shirin van Anrooy came through to the front, looking really, really strong early on, and then unfortunately she had a bit of a crash on the off-camber just before the pits, and she ran to the pits, she lost 20 seconds, and we didn't see her back at the front. Puk Pieterse then took over. She had a crash on the descent. Amandine Foucanet, again, after that historic win in Zolder, had a great start, just looks so strong on the climb. You can really see that the French champ is going to be a force to be reckoned with. Celia Giry, again, great performance from her in the under-23 classification. Amandine Muller as well, the other young French rider. She's having a great outing. And the under-23s, again, Victoria Kladanova rode her way through the field. World Cup leader Leonie Bentfeld for the U23s kind of slid back a little bit as the race went on. But Lucinda Brand, what can we say about her this season? 14 wins, 10th win in a row, but she's just on another level, isn't she? I mean, you can tell that she came into this season knowing that she was going to have to raise her game and challenge Fem van Empel. And unfortunately, we had that news a week or so ago that Fem's decided to put her cycling career on hold indefinitely. And we hope that Fem will find the love of cycling again, and maybe we'll see her back in a cyclocross race in the future. You never know. But it does mean that Lucinda Brand just is that little bit higher percentage above everybody else at the moment. But just from everything, technically flawless, you would say, from Lucinda Brand in these races, and just watching that technical improvement probably over the last 10 years, you would say, is just something to behold, and it was an incredible performance. Amandine Foucanet equaling her best World Cup finish in second, and then Puk Pieterse taking her first podium of the winter, a great third spot for her, and another former winner of the race. The elite men's race, so we've been waiting, haven't we, as we do with every generation. You've seen that generational shift in Wout van Aert and Mathieu van der Poel. Now we're seeing that with Thibaut Nys and Thibaut Del Grosso, and this young new generation come through. And each winter we're kind of always thinking, right, when are they going to be able to challenge the likes of Mathieu van der Poel when they come into racing? And Thibaut Del Grosso getting that win in Zolder, out sprinting Wout van Aert, that was a huge moment as well for him and for cyclocross. And Namur, Thibaut Nys pushed Mathieu van der Poel close. They made him work for it, and that little crash for Thibaut Nys on the final lap, Mathieu van der Poel going clear there. But today in Gavere, after a couple of nightmare sand races, you would say, for Thibaut Nys, it's not his favoured surface, and he says that himself. And Sven Nys was saying after Namur that the next race that he thought Thibaut would be competitive in would be Gavere. And it proved to be true. Thibaut just went for it from the start. You could see how strong he was on the climbs. And just continually, just those little sucker punch attacks you could see were really hurting everyone. And eventually it did come down to a battle between Thibaut Nys and Mathieu van der Poel. Mathieu van der Poel came through to the front, and then it just took that minutest of error, which is always the way with cyclocross, into that descent. Thibaut Nys' right foot came out in a rut. He then hit the next rut before he'd got his foot back in, and he just lost momentum, and Van der Poel was gone. We know what Mathieu van der Poel is like. He doesn't need a second invitation. But when you look at the fastest laps, Mathieu van der Poel, 8.7 seconds faster than Thibaut Nys and 9 seconds quicker than Michael Vantoren out of lap. That's absolutely bonkers. And I've said it so many times over the years. For Mathieu van der Poel, it's just half a second here, a second there in every single turn and corner and descent in every part of the course. He's a perfect record, again, so far this season since he's come back into racing. And for me, I've commentated so many of Mathieu van der Poel's victories, and I never tire it. You would never say that the way that Mathieu van der Poel wins is boring. It is something to watch. He is a generational talent in cyclocross. We're watching one of the greatest cyclocross riders of all time, because unlike other riders, there isn't a surface that Mathieu van der Poel cannot win on. And you watch that in the sand races, you watch the way he rides in Koksijde, and we'll see it again in Zonhoven and races like that. There isn't a course or conditions that he can't win on, and it is just an absolute privilege to be able to commentate on these races. Thibaut Nys, you saw his head went down, and understandably so. When he lost that momentum, his head dropped. He was looking around. He was trying to keep an eye on where those chasers were behind. And it was interesting in the post-race interviews when you heard Mathieu van der Poel was worried how strong Thibaut Nys was, and Thibaut Nys said when he went, Mathieu was not going to be able to stay with Mathieu van der Poel. And I always think it would be great to be able to just dive into their brains as they're going on and know what they're thinking throughout the race. Again, after his win in Zolder, first ever World Cup podium for Thibaut Del Grosso. His previous best in a World Cup was 4th place in Koksijde at the weekend. So it's clear to say young guns are coming. They are going to challenge, and we will wait for that moment where Thibaut Nys or Thibaut Del Grosso finally gets the better of Mathieu van der Poel in an out-and-out fight. Loads of great races coming up. The World Cup now goes to Dendermonde or the Dendermonde, which again, looking at the weather forecast, it's going to be quite different conditions. When I was there last year, it was absolutely chucking it down. I mean, I needed a canoe to get around the course. It was that wet and that muddy, and I was losing my wellies at times. It was that wet, but it's quite cold. It's really cold and really frozen in Belgium at the moment. So Dendermonde is going to be a different thing altogether. We then go to the GP Sven Nys in Baal on January the 1st. And I think looking at today, especially with the elite women, Jolanda Neff had a great start, made an absolute charge through to the front, and I think then just maybe kind of overcooked that first lap. So she's won in Baal before, and I think the GP Sven Nys on the 1st of January in Baal is going to be really exciting for the elite men and the elite women. Of course, it's Thibaut Nys' home. I'm going to try and get to Belgium and go and hang out with my buddies, the Backsteads, and maybe get to Baal. So I might see you there. Hope you're enjoying this Christmas period of cyclocross as much as I am. I'll see you next week. See you soon. Don't forget, subscribe, press that bell. Isn't that what everyone says on YouTube? See ya.